I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual.
起立，面向佛堂，参加三鞠躬、一鞠躬、再鞠躬、三鞠躬，参加各位点传是一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated.
Good morning or afternoon or evening to you, wherever it is you happen to be at the moment. Welcome to the June the 10th installment of our online Tao study group. It's a joy to see y'all. It truly is. I really and truly hope that all of you who are within the sound of our voices this morning are able to gain some benefit from what we're doing and some fellowship, albeit long distance, with the other members of this group. It's a remarkable thing that we're able to do this every week and be able to gather together and study the Tao teachings. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do. I'm going to talk to you a bit today about perspective. And I'm truly hoping, actually, that an awful lot of what I'm going to talk about this morning, you're all going to find just blatantly obvious. That would be my sincere hope. But my other sincere hope is that for those people out there who do not find these teachings blatantly obvious, that perhaps this talk may benefit someone else and help them to gain some insight and some wisdom and knowledge into the workings of human nature and the application of the Tao teachings. And so the only subtitle I have in the entire presentation this morning is Applying the Tao Teachings. It's going to be a rather simple talk. However, I've found that simple and straightforward and honest tends to be very often the only real good way to present the Tao teachings and the best way to understand them. You know, we all, irregardless of our traditional paths, our karmic paths, our spiritual beliefs, our value systems, or whatever, we all wind up stuck in life's events. Some of them positive, some of them not so positive, some of them just benign. It doesn't make a lot of difference, but from day to day, just surviving and existing, by definition, says that there are going to be a lot of things happen in our lives that we're going to be forced to respond to in one way or another. Case in point, Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, my wife's dad passed away in his apartment, and nobody knew it until Thursday. And so we sent the police up to his apartment in Crawfordsville to figure out what the deal was, because nobody had heard from him in a while. And that's when we discovered what had occurred. For a lot of people, that discovery would be a remarkably traumatic event. That's one of those life events that most people would consider to be extremely high impact and not very much fun to deal with. And you know, true to form, it hasn't been a lot of fun to deal with. But my family and I follow the path of the Tao of Heaven, and for that reason, this event has not been a huge trauma or something to be dreaded, feared, and cause widespread panic. It simply was an occurrence that had to be dealt with. Paige, my wife, has taken this really well and is responding in the most appropriate means you could ever hope for, having had a parent pass on you. I'm so remarkably proud of her and my children for their measured responses and their ability to control their words and actions in the midst of complete chaos in the surrounding extended family. You got to understand that within this extended family, there already was a lot of drama, a lot of infighting, a lot of problems with the relationships between the various family members. Stuff that really didn't affect us too much, but where the various factions in the family from one set of relatives or another really had some significant problems between them, not unlike the Warring States period. And I think maybe even a couple of cases there may have been firearms involved. I'm joking, but it was still pretty tense. My wife never has fallen victim to either that thinking or participated in that infighting and all of those problems. And she has now risen to the position of leadership within this group because she's the only person in the whole bunch of them that has maintained her composure and shown any degree of common sense at all in dealing with this event. She will forgive me at some point for making her an example here, but it is such a striking example of what I'm talking about that I just couldn't not use that. I had to use this example. It was almost karmically donated. Fortunately for us, those kinds of life events are not daily occurrences. Those kinds of events are fairly far and few between, but they do happen. And watching this event unfold, I was able to discern from the various interactions the following pretty salient truths. Our reactions tend to flow from our emotions. The most prevalent of those, the ones most people express the best, are expressed through anger and rage, which is unfortunate. We do a real good job of telling other people how upset we are with them. We don't always do a real good job of telling other people how much we appreciate them, how much we love them, how thankful we are for their presence in our lives. We often don't do a real good job of being compassionate with other people who don't share our point of view, and instead pretty much tend to get out the baseball bats when they start speaking. That's because our emotions are rooted in our belief systems and values, and those belief systems and values define a set of absolutes in our minds that we will not allow other people to cross very frequently. We have a set of absolutes and we have a set of preferences. And our determination of what absolute truth is, what absolute right and wrong is, what our absolute boundaries are, and what our most closely held and valued opinions are the well springs of the judgments that we hang on to that cause those emotionally based reactions. Lao Zi understood this set of processes 2,500 years ago and spoke to these sets of processes in the Daodejing. The Yiguan Dao as an organization has taken those teachings and formulated a doctrine of compassion and self-examination such that the authentic Dao teachings mandate that we examine that set of absolutes and strongly held opinions and preferences for some kind of validity and some kind of correctness. That is to ensure, if we can, that our set of absolutes and correct and preferences is accurate, is true, is correct, is worth holding on to. We need to question whether or not that set of absolutes is something that's worth fighting over. Because the the genuine truth here, and once again, I've seen this illustrated in living color. The truth is that the vast majority of our most cherished beliefs and opinions are 100% subject to opinion and perspective, ours and other people's. That fact can be observed by watching other people rationalize the choices and decisions they know they shouldn't make. This is the picture of the extremely type 2 diabetic individual describing to himself why it is okay to have the second enormous slice of chocolate cake. Rationalization is the act of applying a perspective, either positive or negative, but definitely artificial, to a choice or a decision, and we all do it. It's part of human nature. And anything can be rationalized. The underlying thought process of rationalization, however, has a use in applying the Tao teachings. And so before you all euphemistically look at me like I have 3 heads here, understand that the use for this is instead of rationalizing a choice or a decision that you know doggone good and well you shouldn't make in the first place, you use the same thought process of description, questioning, and probing to evaluate the choices using that set of questions. The questions that we answer to ourselves as we rationalize a poor choice are the same questions that perhaps we should be using to think critically about whether or not we ought to be making the choice to begin with. Once again, the truth is that most of the life events we find ourselves stuck in and our reactions to them is a matter of perspective. It's influenced by our point of view in the moment and by what we think is appropriate, not appropriate, or that comes close to violating one of our absolutes. If we understand this basic, simple truth about ourselves, then we can eventually, hopefully, come to understand that the very same thought processes exist in other people. And perhaps in understanding that, we can act with a bit more compassion instead of a lot of derision and conflict when those other people's points of view and opinions conflict with our own. And that's going to happen. One of the things I say to my kids pretty frequently, especially Aaron, because he's an Asperger's kid, and so he deals real well with black and white, and not so well with 256 dazzling shades of gray, is that opinions are kind of like belly buttons. Everybody's got one. First time I said that to him, it blue screened his brain for about 2 days. He had an umbilical hernia when he was 3 months old. He does not have a belly button. Neither one of us does. I didn't consider that fact when I first said this to him. The response was rather humorous. However, I stick to this statement because it's the truth. Absolutely everybody has an opinion on just about everything. Whether or not the opinion is valid is a whole other question. All of our opinions are based on our perspective, our point of view at any given moment in time, and are dependent upon the words and actions and events that surround us at the time. Opinions change with the wind. They change just like we change clothes every morning. They are the most volatile and fragile of human thoughts. And very frequently, they're not subject to any test of validity or truthfulness. They're simply how we feel about a given subject at a given point in time. Because of that, we really need to be prepared to consider the possibility that at least some of our opinions and beliefs may not be correct. It is astounding to me how many people hang on to just the wackiest of beliefs because either this is the way things have always been, or this is what my mom or dad told me, or this is what the guy down the street told me, or this is what my friend told me, and they can't possibly be wrong. Well, guys, yeah, they can be. Don't we owe it to ourselves to find out? See, once we can accept the possibility that we might be holding on to some invalid beliefs, then perhaps we can begin to examine our perspective, our point of view, through the point of view of Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu was a remarkably sharp and very wise individual. And thanks to the really hard work of the organization, you want to know, we have access not only to his core teachings and beliefs, the Daodejing, but to the interpreted doctrine that was inferred by those teachings to help us make our lives a little smoother, a little easier, a little better, a little more joyful. And if we can find a way to look at some of the things that we hold on to through that lens of the Tao teachings, then perhaps we can alter the way we look at some things and get closer to the authentic, bare truth. Maybe once we can do that, we can begin to question whether or not we have enough information to formulate a really valid opinion about a particular topic, or to support a belief or tradition that we hold on to. Things that we've perhaps taken for granted for years and years and years because we've always believed they were the truth can be subjected to that deeper and more challenging set of questions to determine whether or not those things are valid. As we begin to investigate our own beliefs and opinions, then we may be able, hopefully, to be more compassionate to others who hold differing points of view from ourselves. And the reason that I keep coming back to a more compassionate viewpoint is that it's not possible for us to force our version of the truth on another person. We can investigate and study and probe and examine every facet of a particular subject, gather all of the information we can find, see the biggest picture we can scope, come down to the absolute raw, bare bones truth of a subject and to the very best of our abilities, and still have other people who will not believe us. And that's okay. Once again, opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody has one. Other folks do not have to follow our path or adhere to our beliefs or follow our teachings. And we certainly cannot force that to occur. You see this sort of behavior when someone wants to debate a particularly vague and ambiguous argument, the existence of God, for instance. Neither side of that debate can prove or disprove the existence of God. It isn't possible. But they'll argue about it until both of them drop from asphyxiation. The only thing that we can do as it regards the opinions and beliefs of other people is accept whatever that opinion is as theirs and hope for the best outcome. Try to set the best example that we can in the hopes that in some small way we may plant a seed of insight and understanding that'll grow one day into the karmic affinity for the Tao. I didn't really foresee how deep this little presentation was going to become, how quickly. But there are a few truths we can take away from this that I think are worth remembering and worth trying to apply. And this discussion is all about applying the teachings of Lao Zi and the teachings of the Guandao. It's all about gathering all of the information we can get before we formulate a strongly held opinion or belief that we're going to attempt to teach to other people, or before we're going to adopt a particular belief, tradition, or opinion as our own. We owe ourselves the due diligence that we should be applying to those things. We owe others the compassion and gentility of a kind heart and the genuine Tao when they express what we feel is way out in left field to us. Anything can be rationalized. Anything can. History is full of examples of high-profile, very visible people who have rationalized their way into terrible situations. Everybody does it at some point in time or another. It is one of those human activities that the teachings advise us not to participate in because it isn't helpful to us. However, the set of questions that we use to rationalize a poor choice can be used in critical thinking to help us avoid them. Absolutely everybody has their own version of what the truth is, their own beliefs, their own perspective, their own point of view. And to them, that perception is reality. It is the truth. Whether it is or it isn't is irrelevant because another person believes it. It is not within our purview to challenge another person's perspective by force. The only thing we can do is present what we believe in our hearts to be the correct and valid truth and hope that it's helpful for someone else. The Tao teachings demand of us that we challenge and question our version of what the truth is and our beliefs and our values until we distill those things down to what is real and authentic and legitimate. I have spent a lifetime, literally, doing this very thing, searching for these teachings, wading through the mountainous pile of I'll be kind, disinformation, misinformation, misinterpretation, okay, until I found this set of teachings where I could examine and probe and poke and question and examine and at every turn find a solid, level, viable, truthful platform that was not subject to collapse under the weight of the questions. This is perhaps the most important thing as students of the Tao teaching that we have to undertake. If we fail to do this, we not only run the risk of becoming a victim of the same disinformation, we run the risk of helping other people to become the victims of the disinformation. That is a tragedy. It denies those who may otherwise find the karmic affinity for the Tao teachings the opportunity to experience them. That said, it's not our job to persuade or convince or cajole someone else into believing what it is we teach. That's not possible, and it causes a lot of bad feelings and ill will. Our job is to gather as much good information as we can get and to disseminate that information through a good example and a kindly persona and a gentle countenance to anyone who's ready to receive it, to sow the seeds of the Tao teachings in the hearts of those who have not yet experienced it, and hope that one day that kernel of truth will sprout into a beautiful little shrub of karmic affinity that will one day lead those folks to the Tao teachings. I really hope that something I said this morning was useful to you. I hope it was helpful, and thank you all so much for letting me share with you.
Bill, thank you so much for that presentation. It is very heartfelt, and I definitely feel the sincerity in every word that you uttered. I especially want to zero in on what you said. I found it very fascinating when you described your family undergoing really just an emergency situation, you know, the death of a member of the family, the death of a loved one. That's got to cause a lot of distress. That's got to bring about tremendous pressure from all different directions. And what you said was that Paige, your wife, has naturally emerged as a leader in this tumultuous situation because of the calmness and composure that she brings into it.
That and the wisdom and the insight that she brought to it. Her ability to manage that situation has been remarkable.
I think, you know, I think you can actually take a little bit of credit here, Bill, because I know that you feel, and it's true, I know that you feel you have a lot of stuff that you need to work on in yourself. But I know that one thing you have mastered over the years is to remain calm in a crisis situation. You do that in every aspect of life, whether it's work-related or on the personal front.
I do. And you knew me before when I was perhaps somewhat more volatile than I am now.
I think nowadays, when you encounter some sort of an urgent situation, you know to take a deep breath, you know to use the three treasures, you'll hold to the mystic portal, and you will, use the three treasures that you normally use every day anyway, and that brings about the calmness that you need to command the situation.
Yeah. I'll tell you, although I don't talk about this real often, there are two things I keep in the forefront of my mind all the time I think of it. The wordless sutra, and there's a phrase in the ritual that we do, Namu Ami Fo Shi Qian Yuan, that I have found to be exceptionally powerful. And I meditate on those two things day and night. They stay in the forefront of my mind almost continually.
Yes. Let me repeat that for the benefit of people who didn't catch it the first time. What Bill said was a phrase from the rituals, Namu Ami Shi Fo Tian Yuan. It's one of the most powerful phrases in the ritual, so it was no accident for Bill to have chosen that particular phrase.
I also asked Master William to explain it to me so that I understood it thoroughly.
Yes.
Not sure this is the moment for that explanation, but it has a lot of meaning and power behind it.
Indeed it does. And if anyone listening right now is interested in that, definitely in a future meeting, I will be happy to delve into that in great detail.
I'd like for you to do that anyway. I really, really would.
Okay. I will consider, that the request has been received, sir.
Please.
Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架三鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位顶传十一鞠躬，结班一鞠躬。We're done, everybody. Thank you so much.